I'm Gerardo Jimenez,
I'm Collin the Vaere.
and today we'll be teaching you about
Genetics.
chapter 11.1,
2.
and 3.
Gerardo, what's genetics?
Well, Collin, genetics is a study of heredity. Gregor Mendel was born in 1822 in the Czech Republic, but he is known for his peas. What's fertilization? Well, fertilization is when male and reproductive cells join during sexual reproduction. Gregory Mendel had his own set of pea plants. His peas were true breeding, which means that if they could self-pollinate, they would be able to produce offspring that is identical to themselves. So what he did was that he had to prevent self-pollination, and to do this, he had to cut the pollen-bearing parts of one plant and exchange it with pollen from another. This made him be able to crossbreed plants with different characteristics. How do you find the probability of an offspring trait? Well, you do a Punnett square. How do you do a Punnett square? Well, you first take the two alleles of the parents. So if one parent was homozygous, it would be 2 large T's or 2 small T's. And if the other was heterozygous, it would be a large T and then a small T. And after you do that, you do a chart and you bring each one down and cross them. After you are done, it should look like this. And that's how you do a Punnett square.
Independent assortment. What is independent assortment? Independent assortment states that genes from different traits will segregate during the formation of the gametes. Independent assortment helps with the variation of plants, animals, and other organisms in this world. Gregor Mendel performed an experiment to follow 2 different genes as they are passed down from one generation to the other generation. This experiment is known as the 2-factor cross. The cross looks like this, and the genotype of this cross is capital R, capital Y, little y. And to do this cross, you bring down the little r in every single spot, and then the little y in every single spot, and then right here you bring across the capital R, and then you bring across the lowercase y, and you do that for every single one on these rows. Gregor Mendel formed the basis of science with his principles. These principles are: genes are passed from their parents to their offspring. Some genes are dominant and others are recessive. Most adults have 2 copies of each gene, one from each parent. But these principles don't just apply to plants. They apply to all living organisms. One example of this being applied to another organism is when it was done to the common fruit. The characteristics of any organism, even if it is Mendel's peas or the common fruit plant, they are not determined by the genes they inherit, but they are determined by their interaction with the environment and the genetics. One example is when genes affect the hair color of a person or even their skin color. But this can change with the environment, because your skin can get tan with the sun and change your appearance. Genes make you who you are, but the environment can change it.
Hybrid is when the offspring is crossed with different traits from the parents, like when one parent is tall and the other is short. Alleles are the 2 different forms of genes. Gametes are the sex cells, also known as sperm and eggs. Probability is the likelihood that an event will occur, like when you do the Punnett square or the dihybrid cross. Phenotype is the physical characteristics, like if they're tall, short, ugly, or beautiful.
Genotype is genetic makeup. Incomplete dominance is when an allele is not completely dominant. This is when there's, on a Punnett square, it's when there's one big letter and one small letter in the same square. Codominance is when no alleles contribute to the phenotype, and this is when like two small letters are recessive to two big letters in the dihybrid cross.
This is Gerardo Jimenez,
And Collin,
and I hope you enjoyed this video on chapter 11.1,
2,
and 3.